Man, that was a great memory from last year. One of the things we did during Be Rich was to help Fish Food Pantry. Not only were we able to give them a gift of about $16,000 in cash to help them with all of the needs that they had going on from our Be Rich offering, but we also spent a day and a half is all it took for us to move them from one side of town to the other into one of the local schools that was empty after new schools were being built, and so that was really great. And one of the great things about that is that the relationships between Fish Food Pantry and the Fairborn City Schools all started here 2 years ago during Be Rich, and that's when the conversation happened about how they could do this. Amazing how God opens doors, and we just get to be part of that. So how are you? Everybody good today? I hope you're excited. And we said that anytime we say two words that it was like, whoo. All right, so if I say Be Rich, what's that mean to you? Oh, no. You sound again. Actually, you sound like Marshall fans did last night. Okay, so let's try it again, all right? And let's sound a little more like some people that were really excited that we have something to be excited about since we're going to be rich. Much better, much better. I'm excited to have with me here today a young lady I've known most of her life. And I've had that privilege to be part of that with her and her family. But this is Celeste Hurley, and she has been a part of Fair Creek. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit because she's been a part of this church and just a little bit about her story and all of that. But would you welcome Celeste this morning?
Good morning. I have been a part of Fair Creek for 25 of my 26 years, so I've been around for a little while. When I was growing up in Fair Creek, I had the opportunity to connect with a lot of the leaders in the church, people that were serving, in my small groups when I was growing up, and some of those I serve alongside now, but that gave me the desire. I wanted to be like those cool people that were leading my small group, so when I was in 6th grade, I became one of those leaders too, and I've been working over in that building. Well, not that building all the time, but...
That's right. But let me say, you were a part of helping before we had that building.
We were in trailers over there.
That's right. Modular units that we had before we had that building. And so we did that. And what would you, I'm going to say how important it is for you to start serving as early as possible. So if you've got a 6th grader or anybody in student ministry, you should be encouraging them to serve and to be a part of ministry somewhere in the church because that really helps build their faith and everything. And so tell us a little bit about, you got on a career path. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I am a licensed social worker. I work for the Family Violence Prevention Center, and I've had lots of different roles there. But my senior year of high school, I did a project on the foster care system and was like, wow, I think I could do something about that. Maybe not change the whole world, but I could do a little bit. So I started excitedly telling people in my life, like, I'm going to be a social worker. Isn't that so great? And I didn't get as excited responses sometimes. People were more like, oh, why would you do that? And one other Christ follower that I looked up to, actually, when I told him, he kind of said, oh, no, I don't think you should do that. Pretty outright. You probably shouldn't do that. And I was a little confused. He said, well, if you want to help people, you should do something, like ministry-wise. You should find something to do in the church. And I was confused by that because I felt like God was calling me to that career field, and doesn't God come to serve broken people and restore broken situations? And so I had a good dialogue with that person and really feel like God has put my feet where I was supposed to be. Even how I got connected to the Family Violence Prevention Center was my internship my senior year of college, and that was my third option, not my first. My first option fell through. My second option fell through. I said, okay, fine, I'll land at this place. So very early on from the beginning of my work, it was pretty evident that God wanted me to be there for a reason, and I was kind of waiting to figure out what that was.
Sure. So when I hear you say your plans fell through, usually there's something, though, when we're trusting what God wants to do with us, He puts us somewhere on purpose. And so maybe our plans aren't His plans, and sometimes it's a good thing they fall through, which led you to the Family Violence Prevention Center of Greene County, and that's where you are currently. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about your role there and what got you involved there, and maybe even a story about how maybe God's used you in that place.
Absolutely. So the Family Violence Prevention Center, we are what's called a dual domestic violence and sexual assault agency. What that means is we really are looking to restore dignity and independence to people who have been abused and been hurt in their relationships. And really what abuse is about is power and control. And so we try to give them some of that control back into their lives. So I've held multiple different roles there. I've been a case manager, so helping people get into their apartments, or I've done teaching in schools. So if you have a kid in a Greene County school, I have probably taught them in either middle school or high school and talked about healthy relationships. And right now I help our sexual assault survivors, and so it's been a really cool role to step into. But one of the stories, there's a lot of different stories that I could share, but one of the stories that stands out to me is a couple of years ago. Again, I was in a position where I was helping cover a third shift because we have a shelter. People work there 24/7. And I was helping out, so not even in a time where I would normally be there. But so it was probably 1, 2 in the morning, and a mom had come in. She had been in our shelter for a little while, had a really bad day with her oldest child. He actually was not back at the shelter with her that night because he was staying a couple nights in the juvenile detention center. So it was a pretty rough day, and she was feeling pretty broken down about it, pretty hopeless about just how she was going to help her family get back on the right track, and looked at me. And even though I'm not able to outright say, I'm a Christian, let me tell you about Jesus when I'm there in my role, but she knew. She said, Celeste, you believe in God, don't you? I said, yeah, I really, really do. She said, could you pray for me and my family right now? So at 1 in the morning, got to sit down, and I get goosebumps. That was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I have goosebumps thinking about that moment and just how I wasn't real excited to stay up all night for third shift, but after that I was like, all right, you want me to, how long you need me to stay here tonight, because I'll be here all night for moments like that. So
That's awesome that at least you had the opportunity to do that. I'm sure, just because I know you, that your opportunity to be able just to be Jesus to people around you every day is you definitely have opportunities, I'm sure. So tell us a little bit about this. I know that what we've decided to do as a part of Be Rich is to come alongside what you're doing there, and there's a lot of needs. And so we're hoping to be able to give not only a monetary gift, but we are asking people to, asking any of us to sign up to be a part of serving there. It's a limited team, so if you're wanting to do that, you're going to have to get in early. And so that would be great. But I know that when we contacted them, they were kind of like, oh, yeah, you want to help us. Almost like, right, you do, And so we really want to be able to reach out. Can you tell us a little bit about the needs and just maybe even how we can get involved, not just during Be Rich, but maybe all year long?
Yeah.
How could we do that?
I don't think they're ready for Fair Creek. I don't think they're ready, and they know.
You mean that good, right?
In a good way, in such a good way.
Just making sure.
I don't think they're ready for how well we try to show up for our community. That's how I mean it. Because when I did, I first put out this idea to some of my coworkers and things that were like, well, we could use this little thing, or maybe this would be helpful. And I was like, no, bigger. Think bigger. So I would love to just kind of blow those expectations out of the water, because obviously that organization is important to me, but Fair Creek is important to me too, and being for our neighbors, all the things. So some of the ways financially, obviously just keeping the lights on. It's really hard to have a counseling session with somebody in the dark. That would be weird. So just keeping the lights on is really helpful for us. Some things, financial abuse is a really big part of what brings a lot of people to our shelter, and so even little things, they're trying to get a new apartment, but if they don't have a birth certificate, they might not be able to get help for that. And so little things like a birth certificate, ID cards and stuff like that, we'll be putting some of the money into just a Fair Creek fund that will be available to our clients when they need it. And then we are always looking for people to serve. So not just, we have some projects and things. I think you're cleaning up some spaces, maybe doing some painting for us, because we want our space to be warm and inviting for the people that are coming to live with us. But even grocery shopping throughout the year, every week we have volunteers that go out and grocery shop, and sometimes we'll have somebody that'll do it really consistently for a month. and then they get busy and stop doing it. So showing up all year too, I think would be a really great way for Fair Creek to say, like, no, we're not just doing it because it's a fun Be Rich thing, but we care and we're going to reach out and see what needs you have for the rest of the year too.
This is really great, Celeste. I'm hoping and praying that this makes an impact, but it continues to open doors for you, especially with the staff and the people you're going to be caring for. And so we're excited. Are you excited about this? I am. I can't wait for this to be a part. So thank you for challenging us. Let's thank Celeste again here this morning. Okay. Man, I love to see somebody like Celeste grow up in this church and then go on to do something like that, and how important that is. And for us to support her now and to continue to be behind her and encourage her to keep going, because I'm sure it's tough. Have you noticed the world's a little tough these days? And so it's hard to find the opportunities the way that we used to. It seemed like it was so easy. We took things for granted, and the world is different. And so as we consider that, I was just thinking a little bit, and I wanted to ask you a question today again, and we asked this before. I asked it last week, because last week we talked about one of the things that a person who wants to partner with the local church, meaning Fair Creek, to partner together, one of the things that's vital is to give. And giving is not something you do just during a campaign, and it's not just $39.95. There's significance to all of those things, but really it's about having a plan to support the local church, your local church, this group of people, us bonding together, all of us making sure that we're supporting by giving. And when we do that regularly, then sometimes opportunities to do something above and beyond what you would normally give would be something like what we do for Be Rich. So this is an opportunity for us to think of something maybe we could give up for somebody who's already going through a tough time, something that we could give up so that we could make an offering. And so I joked about it, $39.95 last week. That would be about an eighth of a tank of gas now. And so, something like that or whatever. But today we take a step even further, because that's a portion of acting, but on our faith and on who we are and being a part of the local church. But this is so much different. This one means time. And so when we talk about our time and everything, I know that time has taken on a new meaning for a lot of people. And sometimes it's even hard to find meaning in time. So today, hopefully, we can kind of prompt that. So this question is what I want to bring back to your attention. What does it really mean to be the church in our world today? And I want to describe the world. So I wrote down three statements about this, and I mentioned them last week, but I want to start with them today because I think this is important. A world where the church is considered an essential part of every community. Imagine if we were essential to this community. They knew that we needed to be here. Another one is a world where people skeptical of what we believe are envious of how well we treat each other and amazed at how well we treat them. Okay, that's an amazing statement, right? To think about what the opportunities would be for us. And then a world where people want the message of Jesus to be true before they even believe it is true, because they see something different. There's something going on about that. And where do they see it displayed? They see it among the church, not inside a building, all right? Not inside a building, not because we're doing things here, or this is the location of, it's where the church meets. The church is who? People, us. I like the us part. It's us, all right? We're the ones that make up the church. So when we think of Fair Creek, we think of people that make up this local church. And it's important that we don't take it for granted, that we don't consider it as something that is just something you check a box. So yeah, I do that too because it's an obligation or whatever, or it's because I get so much from it, which I hope you do. I hope that this is something that feeds your life, but I would hope that this church is something you feel that you're contributing to, that you actually make it happen. You're a part of what's going on here. Just like Celeste, she is, serving in a location outside these walls of this building, but she is representing the church just like you and I do. Wherever we go, we represent Fair Creek. And by doing that, we really ultimately are representing Jesus. And so I want us to go back to the reason why we do these special times. If we're going to be this church in the world today, a church like I just described, we need to go to this, and this is why we do what we're doing. This campaign, these few weeks of focus, of reaching out to our community, taking an offering that we give away 100% of everything we bring in that special offering. Time that we would give to actually serve people. This is where it comes from. It comes from 1 Timothy. Paul wrote it to a young pastor who was getting things started. And you can imagine, in the world back then was just as hard as it is now. A lot of people didn't believe. A lot of people had given up on faith. A lot of people had said that, God really is hard to reach and there's no way. That was the kind of mentality that was going on. And so Paul was giving Timothy the words to share with the people who were calling themselves a local church. He says, command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. I think it would be great if everybody would just decide over these next couple of weeks, I'm going to memorize that because I want to remember it all year long. I don't want it just to be something. And the word command is not like an in your face, you have to do this. It's a lead them. And so that's exactly what we're trying to do. Lead this church, all of us together, leading each other to be able to be rich in good deeds and to be generous and willing to share. So easy for us to get wrapped up in the things that are going on. This is the reason why we do this campaign, and it's called Be Rich because of what's here in this verse, these words, to be rich in good deeds. So when we consider it, let's think about Be Rich for a minute. Okay? Be Rich is one of those things that we've been doing and trying to accomplish, but it really is meant to bring something about in us. Yes, it's helpful to the people that we give them the money to or that we serve or that we spend the time investing in. This last Friday, a team of people from here went, and this is great, went to Fairborn High School and fed the football team. And you know what? They were they were so polite and thankful, and especially the people who were leading, the coaches and the team parents that were trying to keep everything assembled and everything. They were so appreciative of our wanting to reach out to them and show them how much we care for them. So that was a part of what we've done. One of the first serving opportunities, people stepping up to serve to help those boys. But if we're thinking about Be Rich ought to bring about in our minds a good definition of what the local church is supposed to be. What are we supposed to be? I mean, what is it supposed to be? I mean, think about it. What in your mind would you think if you were writing it down or you were trying to come up with what it's supposed to be about, who we are, all of that? What would be the thing that's most important? Well, I shared this definition with you last week, and I believe it's really an opportunity for us to consider it. It's a group of Jesus followers. First of all, just a people that want to follow Jesus, whatever he says. Partnering in a local area, and that's where we are, Fairborn, Beaver Creek area, and we want to make a difference because of two things, his message and mission. He wants us to lead people to that growing relationship with Jesus. That's what God wants from us. And so if that's the case, that message of the gospel, that good news, that thing that when we serve other people, it opens a door for us then to be able to actually share with them who Jesus is. But many times, and this is really the big thing, think about it, in the world today, trust is an issue. Nobody trusts anybody anymore. You notice that? I mean, really, it's like I got to know everything about that person before I'll invest any time or anything. And really, one of the key elements to think about for this is that for us, the way we have the opportunity to share the message of Jesus is by being able to build trust with people so that we have relationship. And honestly, not a bait and switch where we're trying to serve them so then we can let them have it with the truth, but to make sure that we're opening a door for God to take us through so that we can actually share who Jesus is with them. That's what it needs to be. That's what should be our passion and our desire. That's what ought to be motivating us. And actually, I love this statement. We've said it before, but I believe the church should be caught doing good. I mean, let's face it, a lot of times the media, they stay away from, they stay involved in the juicy stories and the things that are bad and all of this. And I had a friend recently, this is really crazy, he had inherited a church where he was serving, and he had to deal with some things that had happened 10 to 15, maybe even 20 years before that came up, and accusations. And of course, the media took those and started to tear their church apart and trying to say bad things about them and caused all kinds of issues. And their response was unbelievable. When people from the news media came and they talked to them, when they actually came and were interviewing them, they were able to say the right answers, that they were there because they were there to serve the community, and the things that had happened in the past, they were going to do everything they could to prevent it from ever happening in the future. And so imagine being in a situation like that where it was like all these bad things they were trying to do, but they were caught doing good, which turned the story around. Now, you know, in our situation, we pray that nothing like that ever comes to a point to where there would be something negative that would be said about Fair Creek. And I would say this, one of the greatest ways for us to make sure is to lay foundation for the future by what we do now. We ought to be caught doing good. You know, when people see, what church are you from? Oh, wow. And you guys do this kind of thing. That's the way it ought to be. We ought to be caught doing good. And if you're going to actually say, you know, in the past, we talked a little bit about this last week, but a lot of times people are traditionally, this is how the church has kind of done things. Nothing wrong with how that's been done. It just maybe has taken on new meaning now in our culture. And it kind of, we want to make sure that we're understanding this well. And so I'm sharing this with you so you'll understand it and so that I can even understand it better. We've talked about what it is to be a member of a church, and a lot of people will put two and two together, and they'll think being a member of a church is just what you do, or it's something that you do so that you can have a say in things, or that you get benefits from the church or whatever. And actually, I would like us to change our thought process about this. It's not so much about the benefits we gain, but it's about what we bring to the church. It's what we actually add to the people around us. And so there are a couple things that I believe have to happen, and we're going to continue to add to these. But if you're going to partner with the church where you're actually linking arms with the people around you that are a part of Fair Creek, rather than just saying I'm a member of something, no, I'm partnering with them. I'm participating. I'm going to be a part of this. That's really, I think, the way we ought to view what you would think of and traditionally as membership. We ought to think of it as being partners with each other. Not just coming in and sitting down and being a part of a service once a week and then going out. If you're a member doing that, then maybe the idea then is to take it to a new level in your mind and your heart, that it's a partnership, meaning we need each other. We can't do any of the things that we've been called to do by Jesus if we do not take the step to partner together. So what do? A person that partners is going to give, first of all. And we talked about that last week. I mentioned it already today, but it's important to remember. You have a plan to give a percentage of what you have to your local church to support the ministries and the things that are going on. That's what makes all of this happen all the time, is by giving and our regular percentage giving. But then on top of that, another way that you do this is you serve. If you're going to partner with the church, you serve. I mean, there's a reason behind this. Serving, for a lot of us, we think, I don't have the time, or I don't know if I have any talent or ability. I don't even know if I can pull this off. I don't know if I should do this, or I really don't. Right now is just not that time of life for me, or whatever. There's reasons why people, and quite honestly, since all the events of the last couple of years, it has made it difficult for people just to force themselves into regular routine. A lot of people find themselves, it's much easier to sit on the couch and binge on Netflix than it is to actually do the things that they need to be doing, including around with their family, with all that. Or maybe it's on your device. It's like eating up time so much. But it's almost like it's doing something to give us the need for interaction, but we just don't have the energy to push through it. Now, if I don't know if I'm saying something, but I have a feeling that everybody in this room has experienced that to some degree or another, and you need strength. You might say, I don't know if I've got it in me to actually serve. I want to tell you there's some reasons why we serve and why it's important. I want to take you to 2 Corinthians, and I want to just show you a few verses today that will hopefully give you the reason why we would serve. The first part of chapter 5 of 2 Corinthians. Corinthian church, the Corinthian church, Paul had written a first letter because they were messed up. They were trying to do some things and deal with issues that were going on in the church, and people weren't treating each other well at all. And so the first letter kind of got them back on track. And then the second book, 2 Corinthians, when Paul wrote this, it was like, now, you've kind of addressed the hard issues. Now let me get to the things that really will make you a strong church. This is what will help you. And so he was helping these new believers, some of them very new believers, and explaining to them how important this was. He said, for Christ's love compels us. It's the reason. It actually gives us motivation. Reason to go forward, the love that Christ has for us. And what did he do to show his love? Well, actually, the verses go on to tell us that, because we are convinced that one died for all, and therefore all died, and he died for all. What does it take for you to be convinced of something? I mean, to be convinced of something that is going on. I mean, seriously. Today, there's a lot of mistrust and misunderstanding, and it may take you a lot more to be convinced. But if you're a Christ follower, let's say you really are all in with Jesus, you really believe this is true, all right? What should it do to your life if you're convinced that one died for all, and therefore all died? Meaning, when Jesus died on the cross, he died for everyone there. He died in our place. He represented us. And so that verse, that's exactly what it means. And he died for all. He died for everyone. And so the idea of what would it take for you to really see change in your life and be convinced that that's true? I want you to really consider that today. Think about this. Are you convinced that Jesus died for you? Are you convinced that Jesus actually laid down his life, that it was an actual day in history where he actually went to the cross, and when he did, he had you in mind, he had me in mind, every one of us. He had everybody who would make up Fair Creek Church. We were on his mind when he went to the cross. Are you convinced of that? Are you convinced that that really happened? Because if that's the case, then he gives us some next step. And this is what it is. It says this, that those who live should no longer live for themselves. No longer live for themselves. In other words, somebody has laid down their life for us. We're going to lay our life down then to serve him. That's the concept. Anything in our life that we do, and we talked about it last week, that anything we invest in that doesn't have something eternal in mind really is temporary. It's only going to be for this period of time. It's only for just a temporary period. So why wouldn't we want to have our eyes on eternity so that what we're investing in now makes impact in that for many people, not just us? So it goes on, actually, and it says that they no longer live for themselves, but for him who died for them and was raised again. That's important. This concept of him raising from the dead is a reason that tells us of how we can serve. Now, we'll get to that in a minute. There's a verse about that. But I want to jump back to Mark. And Mark has a statement because, see, Jesus was the best one to give us the example of this. Because Jesus, if anybody could have stepped up and said, hey, I want attention. I need everybody to serve me. I need everybody to do what I'm saying. Jesus could have done that. But this was his attitude. In Mark chapter 10, it says, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served. Hear that. He didn't come to be served. He didn't come for everybody to fall at his feet and do everything he said. He came to live by example in front of everyone because that was the only way he was going to be able to show us the grace we needed. This is what he did. He came to serve. He didn't come to be served, but to serve. And, I mean, that's huge. And then the last part, why? What was at the core of that? to give his life as a ransom for many. He came to make sure that every one of us were going to have the grace we needed and that our sins could be forgiven. He wasn't willing to give up, that servanthood to be praised, okay? Jesus came not to be served, but to serve. Now, if he can do that, that's an example to us. And so I even take you, then Peter was with Jesus quite a bit. This is something Peter had to say. In 1 Peter chapter 4, he actually said this: if anyone serves, they should do so with the strength God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. So if you're thinking to yourself, I don't know if I have the time, I don't know if I have the energy, the strength, I don't even know if emotionally I can handle this right now. I just have so much. Let me just say this. You probably can't. You hear me? You probably can't. Because every time we try to serve in our strength, we get burned out really quick. We give up. Matter of fact, it might even cause a crisis of faith in your life. I mean, it might even bring you to a point to say, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. And I don't know why we would want to feel that way. It disconnects us from God. It doesn't build anything in our life. It doesn't when we try to use our own strength. So if you're serving, if you're wondering, how could I do it? If you're skeptical of all of this, then I would say, let this be a trial for you and find the strength God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. In other words, when we serve on our own and we serve in our own strength, it really is more praising us than it ever is praising God. So if you're wanting God to get credit for it, then what do? You step back and say, you know what? I can't do this myself. I'm going to ask God to do this. It may be in a relationship where you're trying to get along with somebody else. God, I just don't know if I can do that. Well, no, you can't, but he can. His strength can do that. If you're led in a situation where right now, you're one of those people that it's just you're finding it a hard time to get off the couch and do something. It's difficult. You're pushing your way through. You're counting the days till your day off or the vacation day, and it's not like you're even present in the situation or circumstances you're currently in. That's difficult. That's hard. Yes, but listen, you're having a hard time being a mom right now, or maybe it's difficult to be a dad, or a situation where you've got a family circumstance or someone in the family is difficult to do. You can't do it. It comes from the strength that God provides. And that's the only way, all right? So if you're going to serve right here among us, this group of people in this building, or related to things we do in this building, all right? You got to do it in the strength of God. That's how he'll be praised, is when we do it that way. Now, key is to remember that serving can grow your faith. Matter of fact, it grows your faith in a way that many other things can't. Your faith will grow when you read the Bible, all right? Your faith will grow when you pray. Your faith will grow if you share what you know about Jesus with someone else. But your faith will grow immensely when you actually depend on him for his strength when you serve. And I know some of you maybe have tried in the past and you haven't found your niche, but I want you to think of it from a different perspective now, okay? Sometimes we've approached this, churches around the country, at least the United States, we've approached this a lot of different ways by saying, here's a long list of things that you could do. I could do that for you today. I could actually give you all of the positions in the church where we could use people, where there would be a great opportunity, and we would invite you to be a part of any of those positions or ministries. I mean, we could do that. But I think what is different that I'd like you to think about is don't think of it from a standpoint of, I don't see anything on that list that fits me. Rather say, you know what? I'm available. What can I do? And maybe search out something where you could find something you do well, but maybe it's just a heart thing that says, I'm just going to serve no matter what. I'm just going to do what I'm asked to do. It may be after an event or something that we do on a regular basis to actually maybe wash dishes in the kitchen. This past Tuesday night, give you for instance, there's a man in our church that regularly provides meals for the Celebrate Recovery program we do here. And the cooking is amazing, all right? The food is unbelievable, really good. And so he does all of that. And so he had invited people to come and to be a part of it with him that night. So there was a team of people who stepped in and said, you go sit with them and we'll clean up. That's what's got to happen. See, you may find that you don't know where you would fit or what you would do, but there's always opportunities. If your heart is there to see God grow your faith, then there's always a place to serve. But then on top of that, serving brings us closer to God. If you're really wanting to know, and I would even say to anybody who's even skeptical of faith right now, you're even exploring this, that there would be a place for you to serve if you wanted to. I can tell you this, it would give you an opportunity. But for those of you who are a part of this, you'd say, yes, I'm a partner, or I've been a member of this church, or I would consider myself, this is my church home. Then I got to tell you, it's going to bring you closer to God, but it brings us closer to each other. It makes us strong. So I'd bring you to this. Why would we get involved? Why would we do this? Again, I'm going to tell you that the church should be caught doing good. That's exactly what it is. And we should think of it from this perspective. We get to represent God's mission for the church. It's something we get to do. It's something that is a blessing to us. So I want you to think of it this way. You're not just a member of a club, all right? Serving makes you a partner with the rest of the church. That's what brings you in. That's what makes you a part of who Fair Creek is by serving. Giving and serving. Those two things make you a part of this family. We're taking on responsibilities together. We're bonding together to do what we can do. And this is critical. People who are partners with the church have a plan to serve regularly. It's just a plan. It's part of it. So say this. John makes this clear in when John spent time with Jesus, he heard him say certain things, and this has always blown my mind. Matter of fact, the verse from Peter that talks about the strength that God provides, but this verse have impacted my life a lot. It has given me some sense of why I should keep going and why I should do what I do. Because Jesus said this in John 14. Very truly, I tell you, whoever believes in me, people who believe in me, will do the works I have been doing. Think about that. Actually do the things that Jesus was doing. And then he says, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. When Jesus left this earth and he went back to heaven, he gave us everything we need. His presence by his Holy Spirit, but he also gave us a challenge and really marching orders, if you will, of what we should do. And serving is at the forefront of it, serving other people. So I want to say to you, if you never thought you could do it, Jesus said you could. You can actually do greater things than he did. Imagine that. So I say this is really important. If you are serving in this church, I'd love to acknowledge you and bring you up here and give you a big hug and a high five and all that. I just want to say a great big thank you. Thank you on behalf of the mission and the vision of this church. Because that's what makes us do what we do. It's allowing us to go further. It allows us to go faster than we would when you serve. And so you're giving time and you're giving effort, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. It's appreciated. It's so critical for us to be a part of a growing, thriving church. And so I want to challenge all of us, though, to consider this. I want to invite you to something. You're invited to partner with the church by going one step further than where you are now by serving. You might say, well, I'm already serving. Well, I'm going to ask you to think about how you could take that to another level. And I'm talking about the things that happen normally within the church. So we've arranged something to make this invitation what it needs to be. Tomorrow night, we are offering an event called Team Link to help you get linked to a team here in this church. And it's not a long night. You're not going to be here. You're not going to just sit and listen to somebody talk. You're actually going to get an opportunity to interact with ministry leaders about how you can be involved and find your place in serving. So I'm going to encourage you, if you don't already have this, but I'm going to ask you to do it right now. I'm going to ask you to take out your phone. Okay, everybody do this. Take out your device. If you got one in front of you, everybody got one? Okay, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Open up the church app. Okay? And if you don't have it, just scan right here. Okay? That'll get you to one link that'll lead you to the other, but sign up there, whatever. That's what it's for. But here's what I'm going to encourage you to do. In just a few minutes, and this might be the best place to start for you. You might say, I know I should be serving, I just don't know where. What could I do? What would be a part? Well, you can find ways to do that. You just sign up to say, I'm available, I'm ready to do it. You do it on the church app. But another thing is that during Be Rich, we're serving other people. And so all of these nominations that came in from you, people you know that are in need, many of them, the part of the story is that people had given up on the church. They didn't think the church really cared. They didn't think anybody was going to do it. Let me say this. This is an incredible opportunity to be rich in good deeds. So I'm going to encourage you to go on to the Be Rich tab and to sign up to be a part of one of those teams. We're going to need really close to 100%, if not 100% participation. That's everybody, all right? That's kids. You can bring your kids with you. It's students for sure. Students are going to make an incredible impact today. They're going to be at Community Park East tonight doing some work that the city has needed done for years. And they're going to be there leaving their mark of what it is to be rich. And I mean, all of us can follow those kind of examples and say, I want to be a part of this. So I'm asking you, every one of us, in a few minutes, we're going to sing. And as we sing these songs, I'm going to encourage you, and Amy's going to give you some direction. But as an act of worship, as an act of putting yourself out there for God to use, I'm going to ask you to sign up using the app. And you might say, I don't have the app, I don't have a phone, I don't whatever. Then I'm going to tell you, somebody will be in the lobby today to talk to you. They're out there set up, ready to talk to you about how you can serve. They're right out there in the lobby. I want to take a minute and I want to pray for us as we take a few minutes here to close today and worship. And we worship by singing, but also worship by offering ourselves to serve. Let me pray for you. God, I'm grateful for everybody in this room. God, I don't want to just pray for them. I want to pray for all of us, me included. God, I pray that we will together, all of us, be able to find our way through this, to put ourselves out there, to push beyond things that may be barriers, things that we've thought are barriers. God, help every one of us to push beyond that and to offer ourselves to be able to serve and to show you how much we love you, but how much we're convinced of what you've accomplished for us. So God, here we are. Let us be caught doing good. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.